There's a brand new calendar year hiding in late August that not many people talk about. Nobody really throws a party for it, no fireworks, no true resolutions list. And still, somewhere around the time the lights start slanting differently across your floor, a part of you sits up and thinks, maybe I could start fresh. And the daydream about that fresh start, the one that feels so good, can be the very thing that drains the energy to act on it. I'm Coach Janet J. And today on Your Next Best Step, we are looking at why fall feels like 2nd January and the one move that turns that feeling into something real before it fades. Let me set the scene. It's the 3rd week in August. The late afternoon light goes golden and slants differently through those windows. The store put the glue sticks out back in July when it felt like an insult. And by now, the spiral notebooks have taken over an entire aisle and may actually even be sold out. And whether or not there's a child in your house heading back to school, or maybe your kids are grown, or maybe there never were kids, or maybe the house is just emptier now than you ever pictured, something in you still answers the change. I felt it this week walking Santino, same route we always take in the afternoons, and out of nowhere, I am mentally redoing my mornings, readjusting walks to match the morning light, my quiet time, my whole fall schedule. Santino, meanwhile, was redoing nothing. He was sniffing the same fence he sniffs every single day, perfectly content. One of us had 21 years of classroom Septembers wired into her nervous system. It was not the dog. There's a passage in James that reads like it was written exactly for this week. James chapter 4. Now listen, you who say, today or tomorrow, we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business and make money. Why, you do not even know what will happen tomorrow. And then the better version, instead, you ought to say, if this is the Lord's will, we will live and do this or that. That's the New International Version. Notice what James does here. The people in that verse have a very good plan. They have the city, the timeline, the business, the outcome. What they lack is contact with reality. And James leaves their dream at full size. He asks them to hold it up against what is actually true and to hand it to God while they're at it. That's the whole move of this episode, written 2,000 years before anyone put it in a psychology journal. So where does the fall fresh start feeling come from? There's a documented reason your brain treats September like a starting line, and I unpacked it back in episode 65 if you want the deep version. The short of it is, certain dates work like clean pages, and the school calendar trained most of us to feel one of those pages every autumn. That part is real. What happens next is where most fresh starts go to die. Picture the daydream. You are imagining the new fall you. Calm mornings, the walk you keep meaning to take, the evenings with your Bible finally open, and it feels wonderful. And a researcher named Gabriele Oettingen found something almost rude about that wonderful feeling. Across 4 very different groups, people job hunting, students, folks heading into a big exam, even patients recovering from hip surgery, the ones who fantasized most positively about the happy ending put in less effort and got worse results than the ones who pictured it realistically. In a later study, her team measured it in the body. When people sat and basked in the rosy fantasy, their physical energy dropped. The daydream feels like progress, so your brain eases off as though the work were already half done. The fantasy spends the fuel and leaves you with the good feeling and an untouched list. There is a fix, and it's almost insultingly simple. Oettingen calls it mental contrasting. You let yourself picture the wish, and then On purpose, you hold it up against the one real obstacle standing in your actual life right now. Wish, then wall. When you do that, something useful happens. If the goal is truly doable, your motivation locks on and you move. If it doesn't fit this season, you feel yourself release it, which frees the energy for something that does fit. The contrast does the sorting your daydream refused to do. So, back to your late August. You are holding a full tank of motivation right now, and fall handed it to you for free. The women I coach who lose this window all tend to lose it in the same way. They dream so big and so beautifully that by the time the leaves turn, the dreaming has eaten the doing. This contrasting, though, touches all four corners of how we live. Mentally, you stop spinning every option at once and let one focus rise to the top. Emotionally, there is relief in releasing the goals that were never going to fit this season, and that release is its own kind of rest. Physically, one concrete focus is something your body can carry out instead of a vague weight it hauls around all day. And spiritually, choosing one thing on purpose is a real act of trust. You hand God the surge and ask where to spend it, which is close to what James was after. So here is your next best step, and you can set it up today. First, do the contrast. Take 60 seconds and name the wish, the one fall change you keep daydreaming about. Then name the wall, the one real obstacle in your week that has stopped it before. Wish, then wall. Whatever still feels doable after you have looked at that obstacle, that is your one thing. Now make it physical. Give that one thing a home in your space. If it's a morning walk, your shoes go by the door tonight with the laces loosened. If it is opening your Bible again, it sits on the kitchen counter to tomorrow's page. If it is calling a friend that you've been missing, her name goes on a sticky note onto the dash of your car. One object, one spot, a cue your eyes land on without having to remember it's there. The daydream, it lived in your head where it burned off on its own. This puts your one thing out in the room where your body keeps bumping into it. So, the short version to carry with you is, fall hands you a real surge of motivation, and that part is not in your head. The daydream about using that motivation is where the energy leaks because the fantasy feels like progress and it leaves the work undone. Mental contrasting breaks the spell. Name the wish, name the wall, and let the one doable thing rise. Then give it a physical home so the choice lives in your room instead of only in your imagination. Hold the plan up against what is true. Hand it to God and spend this fall on purpose. If this show is a help to you, the simplest way to keep it close is to follow or subscribe wherever you are listening or watching, so that the next episode finds you on its own. I will see you Friday. Take your next best step.